Okay. Would you raise your hand if you've ever played the game hide and seek? Hide and seek is kind of a simple game, isn't it? One person seeks and everybody else runs off and hides. And if you're playing hide and seek, the fun part is to be one of the hiders. Why? Because if you're one of the hiders, you get to be in control. You get to decide where you're going to go. And you get to keep your eyes open. You get to call the shots. The hard job in hide and seek is the one who has to seek. I mean, after you get this job, you have to let everyone run away from you. And then you have to keep looking for people who are trying to evade you. People that are laughing at your inability to find them. But what they really don't know is that makes them easier to find. And that's why nobody wants the job. Because if you take it, everybody's going to run from you and you're going to be on your own. And have you noticed that in the game of hide and seek, that the one who gets stuck with the job of seeking doesn't get much of a title, does he? I mean, what do you call the one who seeks in hide and seek? It. They're called it. Not Commander It, not President It, Senior It, not even Mr. or Miss It, or Cousin It. Well, if you're no average fan. No, just plain old it. And nobody wants to be it. In fact, at the start of the game, what does everybody say?
You're it.
Not it, or you're it. Yeah. What happens at the end of the game? If people have hidden themselves too well, what happens has successfully eluded it through the entire game. Or, if it gets called and it's time to come home for dinner, it cups his hands, opens his mouth, and shouts as loud as he can 4 words that will penetrate the neighborhood. It ends the game by saying, "Ollie, ollie, oxen free!" Have you ever wondered where that come from? I really don't have an idea what it means. I've heard a couple of things, but not really this is exactly where it comes from. But whatever ollie, ollie, oxen free means, in hide and seek, it means it's now safe to come home. No one's going to chase you. No one's going to tag you. No one's going to say you're it. You're not going to have to suffer any penalties. You see, ollie, ollie, oxen free is the cry of grace to people who are hiding, that it's safe and it's now time to come home. Actually, 2 stories where there is someone who is seeking and something is lost and hidden. And do you know what the really amazing thing is? That in all of this important game of hide and seek, God has taken the job no one wants. God has taken the job of being it. And He's taken that job forever. It's interesting that Jesus tells the story this way. You see, hide and seek is a game that people, after having playing with God ever since the garden, after the fall, after they ate the forbidden fruit, what did Adam and Eve do? They hid from God in the bushes. I can't believe we did that. Oh no! I hear God's coming. Quick, let's hide. I hope He doesn't see us. And we've been doing that ever since. Abraham hid in Egypt. Moses hid in the wilderness. Jonah hid in a boat that was traveling away from where God wanted him to go. And the Pharisees and the teachers of the law hid behind their religion. So where do people hide today? Well, hide in business, hide in activities, possessions, pleasure, work, anger, relationships, rituals, ignorance, and I have many other things I probably hide. But regardless, of where we choose to hide, the goal and the purpose is always the same. God, stay away. Don't get too close, because I don't want you knowing what I'm doing. People hide from God. Why? Could it be because they've done something wrong, so they messed up, they failed, they want to do something, or currently are doing something wrong, and they don't want him to know about it? They're afraid of what God's going to do with them if he finds out what they did or what they're currently doing. And they don't feel worthy. Oh, they might feel a little worthy, but not fully worthy to be in God's presence. So they never completely come out of hiding because they're afraid there's a part of them that God will reject and turn from. The sad thing is people hide from God because they don't understand who God is. If they knew who God was, they would realize they can't never hide from God. But there's more importance than that statement by a long shot. When you find out you really don't want to hide from God. Have you ever wondered how God feels when you're lost? When you're hiding? When you've strayed? When I've left his path in order to walk my own? We're going to look at the scripture that Beth read this morning for the answer. The beginning of it said, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were gathered around to hear him, but the Pharisees and the teachers muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" Two groups gathered around Jesus at this time. The sinners and the tax collectors, they say, and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. But the question is, gee, why were the religious leaders the ones muttering? Well, probably because they were mad, because Jesus wasn't hanging around with them, telling them of all how great keepers of the rules they were, and I'm so proud of you. In their mind, if Jesus really was the Messiah, he would have treated those sinners like the outcasts they were, and then he would have sat around and drank coffee with them, the Pharisees. But the religious leaders misunderstood God and his son Jesus. They have not come to the grasp, and unfortunately neither has a lot of people in our society, that people, regardless of education, race, looks, economic standard, past, present condition, matter to God. Every one of them matter to God. Each one of us here today, sitting here, matters to God. You are his. And then Jesus told the parable. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep till he finds it? Now, if you've been around sheep farming, what do you think the odds are that this lost sheep is going to make himself back home after he wandered away? It's a very, very low percentage, not very good. So what's the only hope that the lost sheep has? That his shepherd will search for him until he finds him, because that's his only hope. And why would the shepherd do this? I mean, he's got 99 of them sitting there doing what you're supposed to do. Why would he do after the one? Because lost sheep matter to him. And because the point of the parable is this: Jesus came to seek and save the lost. Because each person here in Sweetser even, matters to God. There was a thought-provoking statement made once that said, you will never lock eyes with anyone who does not matter to God. If you look around this room, every face you see matters to God. And when you leave here today and you go out and eat, or you go to the store or wherever, and you see people, every face you see matters to God. It's something that I struggle with, and I find it amazing that it doesn't matter to the shepherd, and it doesn't matter to God how and why people are lost. Whether the reason he will go out after them And he will go after them individually because, as we said, each one matters personally to him. When Jesus walked the dusty streets of the world, he went after the lost people, individually, personally, passionately, no matter who they were, where they were hiding, or what they had done. He went after Nathanael, who sat under a fig tree. He went after Peter as he was casting a net, and Matthew, who sat behind a tax booth. He went after the prostitute, so she anointed his feet and perfume. He went after the crooked tax collector as he hung from a tree limb, hiding behind his well. And he called him by name. Zacchaeus, come down, now. Yes, Jesus went after the lost people. In Jesus' story, it is also interesting to look at what the shepherd doesn't say. The shepherd does not come to the sheep and say the things that I know I'd be tempted to say. You stupid sheep! You have only yourself to blame. What were you thinking of anyway, wandering off like this? Why couldn't you be more careful? Don't you know that the path was narrow and the cliff was steep and the countryside is full of wolves? Don't you know that the path you chose always ends up getting you in trouble? So don't come bleeping to me now that you got yourself lost. No, the shepherd didn't say what I probably would have. Instead, what did he do? He opened his arms. He gathered the sheep, put him and carried him, and went home. No lecture, no condemnation. A shepherd filled with compassion towards the sheep, that when he finds it, his heart melts. And what does he do when he goes home? Celebrate, celebrate. Throws a great big party, doesn't he? What do you think's going on in the mind of the sinners and the tax collectors when they heard this part of the parable? No way, Jesus. I can't matter that much to God. Not me. Not where I've been. Not with what I've done. I mean, come on, look at me. And Jesus was saying, oh, yes, you do. In fact, the Peter father had a party, plates, the cups, the napkins, and the banner with your name on it, all ready and prepared for when you come home. And he's been waiting for the time that he can stop activities and throw a party. The story of the lost sheep tells us that no matter, that we matter to God. And the second part that she read, the story of the lost coin, tells us that we're valuable to God. This was more than just a coin. It was more than a nickel I lost out of my pocket. It was kind of like a wedding dowry. In that day, there were tradition was you had 10 coins that a married woman would wear around her headdress. So losing it, one of them, would be like in today, maybe losing the diamond out of a wedding ring. She lights the lamp, sweeps the house, searches carefully until she finds it because the coin is valuable to her. Do you feel valuable? Not just when you're in this room sitting here with us, but do you feel valuable on Monday morning? How about Wednesday afternoon? Friday evening? Do you feel valuable at home or work, at school if you go there? And if you don't, why don't you? Maybe it's because we often hear that our worth, based on the world's view, is that we're not valuable because we don't have all the money, or we don't have all of the friends, or we're not pretty, or as pretty as people think we should be. All of them have become religions. In this age of technology, IQ is often based on who can be esteemed and who is to be shown the basement based on these standards. But God has a different system. He talked about the worth of an individual. He came to let every one of us, even though we weren't there at the same time he walked, but to let each one of us currently know they are valuable to him and God. And just like today, a lot of people, when Jesus came and did not feel they were valuable because of the values and the standards in their area. How valuable do you think this is? The woman caught in adultery. How valuable do you think she felt? Or the crippled man? Or the blind man? Or the leper? Or the demon-possessed man? Or the single mom with the demon-possessed daughter begging for food from a table? Before an encounter with Jesus, I don't think they probably felt valuable at all. But after they met him, they were never the same, were they? If you read the stories. And they know that they were priceless. And they were. Jesus saw value in each one of us. He saw people who were made in the image of his Father. And it broke his heart to know that we did not understand ourselves the way he does. So what do you think God sees when he looks at you? What do you think he sees at this moment? Oh, if you and I and our neighbors could only see ourselves through his eyes. So focus on this. You are valuable. You are priceless. You are worth the precious lifeblood that Jesus did. And don't let anybody or anything tell you or make you feel otherwise. Not a spouse, family, friends, enemies, society, your past, present condition. You are valuable. God will light the lamp, sweep the floor, search until he finds you. 2,000 years ago, the Son of God cried from a blood-stained cross. You know what he cried? Ollie, ollie, oxen free! You can all come out now. It's safe. There's no penalty. It is finished. I have paid in full so I can be with you.